On my birthday, in the middle of a crowded restaurant, my own father called me poor and stupid. Those were his exact words, loud, sharp, public. He invited me to dinner, my birthday dinner, offered to pay, said I could choose the restaurant, even told me to order anything I wanted. It was supposed to be special. For once I thought maybe this time. He wanted to make me feel seen, celebrated, loved. So I picked a seafood restaurant run by a chef I admired, someone all three of us siblings followed on TikTok. We were excited. We even messaged the chef earlier that week and got a reply. It felt like something we could share. But when I ordered the seafood pasta, nothing over the top, just the dish I was looking forward to, he suddenly turned. "You're both so stupid. Not even looking at the prices. That's why you're poor. It makes sense now." He laughed, loud enough for other tables to hear, and my sister, the golden child, giggled along, reminding everyone about my student debt like it was a joke. I sat there, frozen, my face burning, my eyes stinging. I didn't cancel my order, but I didn't smile again either. He noticed. He tried to joke around to lighten the mood, but I had already shut down. I held my tears through the meal, but when I got home, I broke. And in that moment I realized there are wounds louder than words, and birthdays lonelier than silence. I'm the middle child in a family where love is earned, not given. My father is a successful businessman, charismatic, respected, and, at least on paper, the kind of man people admire. But behind closed doors, admiration becomes expectation, and success becomes a weapon. He's not violent. He's not cruel in the obvious ways. He's worse. He's calculated. He makes you question whether you're the problem, whether you're ungrateful, whether you failed to become what he could have proudly introduced at a business dinner. I never fit that mold. I'm still in school, drowning in debt, juggling 2 jobs just to scrape by. I live paycheck to paycheck. Some nights, ramen is dinner, but I'm not lazy, I'm not lost. I'm just building slowly, my own way, my own life. And that's exactly what he can't stand. In his eyes, if you're not rich yet, you're doing something wrong. If you need help, you're weak. If you speak up, you're disrespectful. My younger sister, she figured that out early. She learned how to win him, praise him, mirror him, feed the ego he so desperately clings to. She's sharp, stylish, confident, and she knows exactly where her power lies. And every time he mocks me or throws a subtle jab, she's right there, laughing just a little too loud. Because staying in his light means someone else has to stay in the shadows. My older brother is neutral, always was. He's quiet, polite, detached. He doesn't defend me, but he doesn't attack me either. Sometimes I wonder if he sees the imbalance, or if he's just learned how to survive in silence. As for me, I'm the one who remembers. I remember birthdays forgotten, school awards brushed aside, tears swallowed in silence. I remember hoping, just once, he'd look at me the way he looked at her, with admiration, or at least pride. So when he offered to take me out for my birthday, to my restaurant of choice, and even said, "Order whatever you want, it's on me," I felt that old, dangerous flicker again. Hope. I thought maybe this year he was showing up as a father, not a critic, not a judge, just a dad. And for a moment, I let myself believe it, because even after everything, some part of me still wanted to be his child, not his project, not his disappointment, just his. But in my family, generosity is always a setup. A kindness dangled just so they can pull it away and remind you who holds the power. And I was about to learn that lesson the hard way. The night started off hopeful. We arrived at the restaurant a little after 7. It was warm, cozy, alive with the soft hum of conversation and clinking glasses. The host welcomed us by name. Dad had made reservations. My sister, my brother, and I followed behind him like shadows. He led, we followed. And for a brief moment, I felt special. I'd chosen this place, a trendy seafood spot owned by a TikTok famous chef. My siblings and I were actual fans. We had messaged the chef earlier that week, and he replied with a smiling selfie and said to say hi if we stopped by. It was my birthday, my choice, my moment. We sat at a table near the window, The city lights glowed behind the glass, and everything felt just a little magical. I even remember thinking, maybe this time will be different. Dad glanced at the menu and said with a casual grin, "Order whatever you want, it's on me tonight." That sentence, it unlocked something in me. A flicker of safety. I stopped calculating prices in my head, stopped wondering if my choice would be too much. So I smiled, for real. And I said, "I think I'll try the seafood pasta." My brother echoed me. He wanted the same dish. We'd been talking about it all week, but that's when it shifted. Dad's expression changed. His smile froze, then flattened. He looked at us like we'd done something wrong, like we'd broken some unspoken rule. Then, in a voice loud enough for the tables around us to hear, he said, "You two are so stupid, not even checking the prices. That's exactly why you're poor. Makes perfect sense now." The room didn't go silent, but I did. I felt every eye at the nearby tables flicker in our direction. I felt my face go red, hot, my throat tightened, my chest hollowed. I tried to laugh it off just a little, like maybe he was joking, but he wasn't smiling. And my sister, she laughed for real. "Seriously," she said, "they're broke and still ordering like influencers." And then she added, like a dagger, "You know they're drowning in student loans, right?" I felt myself shrink. I hadn't even spoken about my debt. Not recently. It wasn't a dinner topic. It was my life, my private stress, my weight to carry. And now it was laid bare on the table, between the silverware and water glasses, for everyone to dissect. I glanced at the waiter, hovering nearby. I wanted to cancel the order, to retreat, to disappear. I opened my mouth, but before I could speak, Dad waved a hand and said, "No, no, let her have it, let her learn." I didn't know what hurt more, his words or the way everyone else just let it happen. No one stopped him. No one defended me, not my sister, not my brother, not even the waiter who gave me a quick glance of pity before walking away. I sat there silent, the whole meal. Didn't finish my food, didn't make eye contact. Dad, at some point, tried to crack a joke, tried to laugh like nothing had happened, but the damage was already done. My birthday dinner had turned into a public lesson in shame, and the only gift I got was the reminder that no matter how hard I worked, no matter how much I hoped, I would never be enough in his eyes. I stayed quiet for the rest of the dinner, fork in hand, eyes down, barely touching my plate. I felt hollow, like I had left my own body, like I was just watching it all unfold from somewhere else. Dad didn't apologize. He didn't even acknowledge the outburst. Instead, he shifted gears, leaned back in his chair, laughed a little too loud at his own jokes, made small talk with my sister like nothing had happened, as if humiliation was just part of the appetizer. My sister, of course, was in her element. She kept throwing in digs, but dressed them in sugar. "You know, maybe this is why you stress so much. You need to learn how to manage money better." I mean, if you can't afford seafood, just say that. Dad's just trying to teach you something. You take everything so personal. I wanted to scream, but I didn't, because I knew exactly what would happen if I did. They'd say I was overreacting, sensitive, emotional. They'd spin the narrative until I became the difficult one, the ungrateful one, again. So I just sat there, frozen, numb, counting the seconds until it would be socially acceptable to leave. And I kept thinking, why do I keep showing up for people who use me as the punchline? I wasn't asking for praise. I wasn't even asking for love. I just wanted one evening, one moment, where I didn't have to brace myself for a blow. And still, I couldn't have it. Somewhere between the second drink and dessert, Dad looked at me and said, "You've been awfully quiet. What, are you mad about earlier?" He laughed, like it was funny, like he hadn't just stripped me of my dignity in front of strangers, like I should be thanking him for the lesson. I looked at him, really looked at him, this man who raised me, who built a fortune, who could spend thousands on a watch but made me feel like a burden over a bowl of pasta. And all I could think was, I don't know who you are anymore. Or maybe I never did. Because this wasn't new. It wasn't the first time. It was just the first time I stopped pretending it didn't hurt. My brother said nothing. He looked down the whole time. Not because he disagreed, but because silence was easier. I don't blame him. I get it now. In this family, you survive by going quiet or by laughing with the ones who hurt you. There's no space in between. When the check came, Dad grabbed it with a dramatic sigh and said, "Don't worry, I'll cover it. Wouldn't want anyone to go broke over dinner." They all laughed. Even the waiter chuckled awkwardly. And me? I died a little inside, right there, on my birthday. It wasn't the insult that broke me. It wasn't even the laughter. It was the fact that no one saw anything wrong. Not one of them thought to say, "Hey, that was too far." Not one hand on my shoulder. Not one whisper of support. I realized in that moment, I wasn't the problem. They were. But they had built this script for so long, cast me in the same role for so many years, that they forgot one day. I might finally walk off the stage. And that was the moment I broke. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just quietly, permanently. The next morning, I woke up early. My eyes still swollen from crying, my chest still tight from holding everything in the night before. But something inside me had shifted. I wasn't going to let this become another story I swallowed whole. So I made a decision. No big speech, no confrontation. Just a clean, deliberate exit from the roles they had cast me in. First, I muted the family group chat, the same chat where my sister sent memes about being broke, and my dad shared articles about financial responsibility. I didn't leave, not yet. I wanted them to feel my absence before they saw it. Then I called the restaurant. I thanked them for the service and quietly paid the bill. Not because I had to, not because I wanted to prove anything, but because I refused to let his money be the last thing tied to my birthday. I would not owe him even that. I didn't tell anyone. I just let the receipt sit there, in my inbox, like a reminder. I'm not poor. I'm just done giving power to the people who treat me like I am. 3 days later, my sister messaged me. "Hey, are you okay? You've been weirdly quiet. Dad says you've been distant." I stared at the message. Funny how silence unsettles them more than the pain they caused. I replied with a single sentence. "I've just been thinking about what he said." She sent back a lol chill, he was just being real. So I left it on read, and this time, I really meant it. A week passed, then 2. No calls, no texts. And I didn't reach out either. I stopped responding to invitations, stopped showing up to Sunday dinners, stopped explaining myself. And slowly, I started hearing the whispers through mutual relatives. "She's being dramatic. She's always been sensitive. You know how broke people get, they overreact." I let them talk, because this time I didn't feel the need to defend myself. Because the more they talked, the more they proved me right. Then, the twist. My professor emailed me to say my essay on family hierarchy and emotional labor was selected for publication in an academic journal. It wasn't a big deal, but it was mine, and I posted it, quietly, on Facebook. No hashtags, no captions, just the article title, "Invisible Until Needed, When Families Turn Love into Leverage." Within an hour, my sister texted me, "Is that about us?" I didn't respond. Later that day, my dad called. I let it ring. He tried again the next morning, left a voicemail. "Hey, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. You took that way too personally. Anyway, call me." I didn't, because by then, I had realized something powerful. You don't need revenge when your silence says everything. Letting go of people who never saw your worth isn't loss. It's liberation. And maybe they'll never apologize. Maybe they'll keep calling me sensitive or cold or distant. But I'd rather be distant than disposable. And this year, for the first time ever, I'm giving myself the only gift they never could: peace. Funny thing about silence, it makes people nervous. At first, they acted like nothing happened. I didn't answer the group chat, didn't show up for Sunday dinner, didn't return my sister's texts, and they all pretended it was fine. But then, the comments started. "You're being dramatic. You're too sensitive. It was just a joke." Still, I said nothing. And that's when the panic set in. My sister was the first to crack. She messaged me late one night. Okay, real talk. I think Dad crossed a line. I just didn't want to get involved. No apology, but maybe a shift, a flicker of recognition. I didn't respond, not because I wanted to punish her, but because I'd spent years waiting for that moment, and now I didn't need it anymore. My brother? He never said a word. But a week later, he forwarded me an article about narcissistic parenting. No caption, just the link. Maybe that was his way of saying he knew. Maybe that was the best he could do. And my dad? He never apologized. Not directly. Not even after I paid the bill. Not even after I disappeared. Instead, he left me a voicemail. You need to stop acting like a victim. I raised you better than that. That told me everything I needed to know. And in that silence, I finally found the answer I'd been chasing my whole life. It wasn't that I wasn't good enough. It's that they were never ready to love me without conditions. And once I stopped giving, they stopped calling. I used to think silence was weakness. That if I didn't speak up, fight back, explain myself, then I was letting them win. But now I know. Silence can be strength. Silence can be clarity. Silence can be freedom. I don't need an apology that's forced. I don't need validation from people who only see my worth when I stay small. And I don't need to sit at a table where love feels like a transaction. So no, I'm not going back. Not to the group chats, not to the forced laughter, not to the birthday dinners where I'm expected to be grateful for crumbs. They called me sensitive. They called me dramatic. But the truth is, I was awake. I saw it all. The favoritism, the manipulation, the subtle cruelty dressed up as tough love. And for the first time, I chose to protect myself instead of pleasing them. I'm not angry. I'm not even sad anymore. I'm just done. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is walk away quietly while they wonder why their favorite punching bag stopped showing up. What about you? Have you ever had to walk away from a toxic family dynamic just to breathe again? Or have you ever realized too late that silence wasn't peace, it was suppression? Share your thoughts below, because someone out there might need to know they're not alone.